Hey, this is Doug and Brad from the Darksliders podcast.
Hey, everybody.
So this week, we did this with Gamescom and Microsoft, um, I guess a few months ago. So we're gonna do the same thing with Sony. So this week there was the Sony Paris Games Conference, which was actually it was a lot like their E3. It was a lot like their Gamescom conferences of past years. It's just like at a different time in a different place, but it was a
Yeah.
pretty similar conference. Pretty cool conference. So we're just gonna kind of go one by one through the things we thought. We're probably gonna go through just about everything,
Yeah, I feel like
and
they
kind
hit a
of
lot of stuff.
yeah. There's a lot of stuff at that conference, and we're not really gonna do it in order because the way they did it in order, some of the stuff was kind of boring. Because if we're gonna do it in order, the first thing we talk about is Call of Duty Black Ops 3.
I love Call of Duty Black Ops 3.
You don't. I actually want to try that like a lot.
Yeah, that's about where I am is I want to try that kind of maybe
That
someday.
zombie mode looks a lot like Time Splitters. We're not talking about. Let's not talk about Call of Duty. What I do want to talk about though first is Horizon. Now, the Horizon demo they showed this week was a little bit different than the one they showed at E3. Only a little bit different. This was basically the demo they had shown behind closed doors. So at E3, like the one that we saw was the person controlling it. They shoot the deer robots and then they fight the Thunder John. That was about it. This demo, on their hand, kind of showed some of the. They showed this game. This seemed more like a real game. I think they showed
Yeah,
like the HUD off.
I feel
They
like this was
showed.
the
Mhm.
gamey elements of it. Like, here's the parts of this that make this into a game. Here's the stealth
Mhm.
indicator, and here's the XP bar, and da 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 da. As opposed to the first one, which I feel like was just like, look at this pretty mess.
Like it's not a mess.
Well,
It's
no,
amazing.
yeah, but Anyway, look at this pretty
Yeah.
thing. Sorry, didn't mean
Hmm.
to offend anyone.
I actually didn't like the UI stuff. I thought the second showing of this was kind of like, oh, that's kind of neat, but I felt like it kind of took away a lot of the aspects. Like I didn't like the numbers showing up. I didn't like that there was a stealth indicator. I don't know, I didn't like any of the stuff they showed this time. I thought it was really cool. Like the gameplay stuff I thought was pretty neat because I thought it was kind of cool that they sort of like herded the deer into like a rope trap sort of thing and the rope trap exploded. But this one I was just kind of like all the UI stuff kind of took away from I guess I don't know the uh the cinematic part of aspect of the game.
It
You know what I
feels
mean?
weird at this point in the reveal of this game to already be to this point. Because I mean, I really feel like they just kind of showed out the basics of here's what we've got. I feel like this is a time to come out and go like, okay, now let's take this a step further. And instead, it's like,
Hmm.
oh, we're gonna slow this down and we're gonna show you all the very specifics of what's going on with this. When this, I feel like, is really a time to just come out with a crazy over the top gameplay trailer and show off some really cool moments from it,
Hmm.
as opposed to the minor details that I feel like would fit better in a trailer coming more within like a couple months of launch.
Oh yeah, yeah. This did actually kind of feel like one of those like those informational trailers that we've talked about a few times,
Yeah,
where it's like this is the world of Horizon. In Horizon, you will be able to hunt animals, get XP, and use your compass. It's like
yeah,
that's not
not that
like
bad, not that bad,
it's like
but
to
close.
yeah, and to me all that stuff is like this is the stuff that's in other games.
Yeah, it really didn't show off anything unique. I did think the Thunderjaw part was fairly unique, but again, we've seen that before. But
Yeah.
that had some unique aspects with it, just with the way that you take down that boss and some of the different
Hmm.
intricacies of it. But I don't know, it just felt like, hey, this game, it felt like something they're trying to sell me that's coming out in 2 weeks. I feel like they're like, it's almost like that, like overconfident, like, we already sold millions of this. Let's just explain how it works now and call it a day.
Yeah. Yeah, like now would be like the point. I think like you like start showing us like hinting at some of the other environments and things like that. But it's just like, yeah, it did seem like one of those demos you'd see much closer to release. Because honestly, this whole demo to me just felt like it made it feel less special and more like other games. It still looks gorgeous and everything. It still looks like a lot of fun, but it's like we added a bunch of stuff that just makes it like other games. So I was like, oh, okay.
I mean, to be fair though, that stuff had to be there anyway. You had to have an XP
Yeah.
system because it's an RPG game. You had to have a stealth indicator because obviously you're kind of a hunter. You have it's all the obvious stuff that I feel like again fits
Yeah.
better in that informational trailer a month or two out from release. But I'm still pumped about this game. Just again watching that
Oh yeah.
Thunderjaw thing and watching how they interact with that and how you attack it and the strategy behind it. That's still just watching that I went, oh man, this looks cool to the point where I kind of forgot that they'd already shown that.
Yeah, I I don't. The thing I don't like the thing I don't like about these demos is they keep saying it's like the Thunderjaw is one of the mightiest creatures in the game, and then like the whole demo is them taking it down in like half a minute.
Yeah, I almost feel like that's one of those things like this thing looks really impressive. You're going to kill it about 2 hours into the game, and then something better is going to come along.
Yeah, or if you don't, like they shouldn't show you like the animation of it falling over and dying should be like not it's not really a spoiler, but if this thing is like really hunting you the entire game and it's really a big deal when you take it down, kind of showing you taking it down is kind of like, "Oh, okay. I'll do that eventually." It's not like it's not special anymore. It's like if they showed a Bloodborne boss, like they're never going to show you beating the Bloodborne boss. They're not going to show you how to do it. And this one they're like explicitly showing you how to take down a very hard boss and I don't know. I'm still excited for it,
Oh,
so
I'm pumped for it. Was
yeah.
I feel like 2016 was already announced for this, but they did put that at the end, but I don't know if that was new or not.
Um I don't know. I don't really actually pay attention to release dates because release dates to me don't really mean anything. Like I can't do anything about it. It's like it'll
Yeah.
release when it releases.
Well,
So I don't get
and it
like
changes so
mm,
much up until like a month or two out from release, so but I don't remember if
yeah,
we'd seen
and like
2016 or not.
no, but I mean 2016 like that's it's got a year to come out in, like a year and a half
Yeah.
of which it can like move within. I don't know. I mean that's kind of cool. 2016 will be pretty big, but I don't think I think it's gonna be a long time after Uncharted 4 before we see any big AAA games from Sony. Well, actually, it's not that far. No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky is not really a big AAA game, though.
It is to me. I'm so excited. June, June, June.
I talked way too much at the end of the last podcast about how I thought this game was coming out like this was gonna be a surprise game. They're like clearly just like not finished with it. Like I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, there was no way that was happening. Yeah. June
I don't quite get it.
2016 though.
Yeah. I mean that's kind of cool, but every time they've shown this game, like I was like, oh, this game looks like it's about to releasing. Oh, this game looks like it's about to. It doesn't look early. Like it's always looked like it's finished.
Yeah, I feel like the stuff that they're tweaking then has to be just some of the more I don't know, maybe some of this randomly generated stuff. I don't know how much work really goes into that kind of stuff cuz gameplay engine-wise stuff like that, it's pretty much looked the same for I feel like about a year and a half now. I feel like
Yeah,
there's really been very few tweaks to what we've seen. So I don't know if there's just a lot on like the server ends or just, I don't know how on earth you do the randomly generated stuff like from a programming standpoint. So I don't know what kind of stuff goes into that. So I don't know if it's all
yeah,
just more of that, okay, we want to make this giant thing and how that goes.
yeah. They must have just been doing a lot of tweaking.
Yeah.
But June 2016. Are you gonna get that day one?
Oh, hell yeah.
If it's, would you pay $60 for it?
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm really curious what the price point on that one's gonna be.
I don't know. I feel like they've put too much marketing in it at this point to not give it a $60 release. But I feel like if it was any other game doing this that didn't have this ridiculous marketing like PR push, I feel like it'd be a $40. But
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, and Sony's been pushing a lot of $40 games lately too, so I could see it easily coming out of that.
I don't know. All I know is that's June is right around the time when I all of a sudden have nothing to do.
Yes, yes, we know. I'll still be working. Anyway, oh, this next game we're gonna talk about Tekken 7. I didn't realize. Okay, first of all, Tekken 7. I love how they announced Tekken 7 when you watch because they announced it right after the Street Fighter 4 stuff.
Yeah, Street Fighter 5.
This is one. Yeah, Street Fighter 5. The one thing I really do like is Ono is the guy who is the producer and director of Street Fighter, and Harada is the producer director of Tekken. And they have this like weird little fake rivalry thing, but they've been doing it like literally for years, since like maybe Tekken 4 or 5.
Yeah.
They've just done this whole like back and forth sort of thing. So I thought it was really funny when Ono comes out of the stage, like, we're going to announce the last character. And they show the screen, and it's Harada, the guy who does Tekken,
Yep.
as like the final character. And then Ono's like, oh no, Harada, not again. And they bring out Harada and stuff. It was just really dumb and silly. That was the most exciting. I actually didn't, when I saw this, I didn't even realize that it wasn't announced for PS4 yet.
I feel like it was. I feel like there was like
It was not. It was not before
I
this
swear
point.
there was some kind of like throwaway like and probably coming to consoles.
Yeah, I don't think it was ever like confirmed.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. That's why that's like they made a big deal like coming to PS4. I was like, oh, did they not say that yet?
Yeah, it's one of those things we knew was coming. 'Cause, I mean, it's been out in arcades for what, like a year now. I think year and a half.
It's definitely been a few months. Like they're definitely coming out like the second version of this
Yeah,
game, like for arcades.
yeah. They also, I do like how they like sneakily added it in at the end. Like every news post you read about this has like update also confirmed to be coming to Xbox One.
Oh yeah.
just
Well,
to be
yeah.
safe. I mean, you knew it was, but like I like that like it's gotten to the point where we need to have that little like, oh crap, is this happening? Okay, this is both. Got it. Nobody bought this. Nobody. This isn't. You're not putting money into this. This is your own thing. Okay, this is actually what is it?
yeah.
Namco Bandai. This is actually still their thing. Okay, we don't still Xbox.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean most of these games are coming out for Xbox. They actually the show The Final Boss Man, we don't really talk about other shows ever, but he did like a whole joke about like I thought it was kind of interesting that they did do this. Is at the beginning of every trailer they had like a very specific what the exclusivity was. So if it was like exclusive on consoles, if it had exclusive content,
Yeah.
if it was, actually an exclusive. So I thought I actually like that because it took away all the confusion.
Yeah, I think we talked
Um,
about this at Microsoft's Gamescom one that
oh yeah, yeah.
Sony had because we talked about kind of that confusingness with Tomb Raider, and I feel like it started like
Mhm.
last year that Sony started with their first on PlayStation.
Yeah, like it became a lot more. I think even Microsoft is doing a little bit more. They're being a
Yeah,
lot more explicit
very
about
much.
what exclusive. I'm kind of mad that the word like exclusive is so messed up though.
Exclusive meaning it's just getting a beta. Exclusive meaning we have one bonus map. Exclusive
Yeah.
meaning the box is blue.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
The other piece of Tekken 7, and I don't know how I feel about this, is VR. So they started dumping VR stuff into like everything. Towards the middle of
Yeah.
this, every game was VR or VR support. I
hmm
don't know how I feel about that for Tekken.
I think it's really cool because the only the only way I could see them implementing this in my head would actually be really cool in that you're like an observer of the fight.
Okay, good. And that was my thought as well. Because my first thought was, there's no way in hell they're doing first person fighting. But Tekken's done
Yeah,
some
no.
weird ass shit before where I could see that just being like the bonus unlock first person fighting mode or something weird like
Tekken
that.
2 actually did have a first person unlock fighting
Did it
mode. That was
really?
terrible. Yeah, it was awful. It was
Well,
so
they're
bad.
bringing it back.
Yeah, I hope it is kind of like you're sitting on the sidelines of a fight. Like that would actually be kind of neat. That's just not something I would have ever even thought of.
Just so you can kind of
Um,
like, well, you did think of it.
well, well, no, I didn't think about it. People had been bringing it up. People had been bringing it up.
Okay, that's not a
Um,
Doug exclusive.
no, that's not a Doug exclusive at all. But I was thinking though, like I'm wondering how the camera like will whip around and stuff because the camera moves a lot during a fight,
Yeah,
and I'm wondering if like the camera's gonna move a lot, like because they can bust through walls and stuff and bust through the ground. Like I imagine it'd be really disorienting if you're.
yeah. I don't. My thing with VR, and we'll talk about this because there's a couple games on here with VR that I really do like the idea of, and I really do like the
Mhm.
idea of implementing it. But this is just one of those things where I don't feel like a fighting game needs VR. I don't feel like you're going to get any improvement from a fighting game. You're not going to increase my enjoyment of the experience by making me put on
No,
funky goggles and look around.
no, but it'll be fun. I think it's like a thing that because they're already doing that really weird VR game. What's that one game called? My Summer or something. That My Summer Lesson, the one where like you talk with a girl. Have you not heard about that one?
Nope, that's news to
Oh,
me.
thank God. The Tekken team is making this weird VR game where you're like teaching a girl English and like you nod and like talk to her and stuff. It's super weird and very Japanese. So anyway, I think that they just were able to get their engine running in VR and they just like slap this on a Tekken. Like
Yeah,
it's not. I don't think it's gonna be a major component at all.
no, I could
Um,
I could totally see it just being kind of that tack on like novelty piece. Like, oh yeah, and Tekken 7 works with your new fancy PlayStation VR you just put hundreds of dollars into.
I'm actually probably gonna get VR. Like I'm just curious. I'm really curious. I probably will pick one up day
I
one
say
depending on the pricing.
I would say I'm curious at a certain price.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm curious at
Um,
$100. I'm not curious at two or three.
yeah. Before we talk about the game, I thought was just amazing. There's another game I want to talk about. Wild. Wild was, I think Wild was the first time we actually got to see what the game was going to be. There was a trailer for Wild like a long time ago that
Yeah,
didn't make a lot of sense, and now that I see the game, it still doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I don't,
I
I
all I
don't.
got is that you're like some I don't know what, like, dude with a stick, and you're walking around the jungle, and I think you can control animals.
Oh yeah, you can. Like that's the whole the whole game is like possessing animals, and I um I don't know. I don't know how I felt about this because the big open world they kept show like every time they show this open world, it's just like vast, empty world, which I
Yeah,
guess works for that sort of game, but like it doesn't make me go, ooh, that's awesome. Because like Just Cause 3, like it looks like a humongous world, but Just Cause 3 is like a humongous world with a bunch of stuff in it. This
yeah,
just looks like a very big world. It actually kind of reminded me of Metal Gear Solid 5.
yeah,
Just a very big, open, barren world, but it even looked like more sparse than that because the things they showed you like attacking was just kind of like a stone monument in the middle of nowhere. It's not
yeah.
like you're
It
actually. Mhm.
it felt like the whole kind of world was still early in development. Like they hadn't finished populating the world with stuff. I don't know how far
Mhm.
away from release this game is, but it just seemed like a very, very early demo of what this is, because it didn't really seem like there was, I mean, like you said, it was empty, but Metal Gear Solid I feel like was empty for a reason. This doesn't feel like it's empty for a reason. This just like looked empty and kind of left me going like, you're gonna put a tree there, or we're gonna put a building somewhere in here, right?
Yeah, I mean it's just trees. So that's what I was kind of like. That's what I was kind of curious about. Like I wasn't quite sure what you do in the game because it looks like such a barren open world. I don't know. This could be this could be one of those games that's kind of like a weird game to describe. And like once you get in your hands, it's a lot more fun because especially with Metal Gear Solid 5, they kind of said it's like, oh, you can attack this position, these guys in all these different unique ways. And I was like, wow, Metal Gear Solid 5 did that. I hope you guys can like even sort of come in the same league of like options to attack.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see what this ends up being. I really, this is something I have no clue what it is. I don't know if it's like an adventure game.
Mhm,
Is it just like I'm wandering through the wilderness hunting down animals? Is it something more to that? Is it like I have no
mhm.
clue what this game is?
I think it's kind of exciting though, because it definitely looks like a very weird game.
Yeah, which can be good or bad.
You know, it's really strange
Hopefully,
that
it's
I
good.
noticed with the yeah, what I've noticed lately is like there's a lot of these like primal kind of games. Like there's Far Cry Primal, Horizon, and now Wild, and they all kind of. It's kind of like when like DreamWorks and Pixar would come out of the movie around the same time, like Ants in a Bug's Life. They're all kind of like sort of similar, that they're kind of like
Yeah,
meshing together for me. I'm
like
really
jumping on a
curious, like
trend.
yeah, but it's weird. It's like a weird trend, like a trend that doesn't make any sense, like a primeval humans sort of thing. I mean, Horizon's like way in the future, but and you're fighting electric dinosaurs, but it's still got the sort of same idea, like bow and arrows and spears and setting traps and things like that. So I'm really curious what the best one's going to be out of all these.
It'll be Horizon.
Yeah, well, maybe, yeah, probably. Well, I don't know. Far Cry. I'm still curious about the Far Cry game. Anyway, so this was holy shit. This was the game they ended on, and this game just looks awesome. What's it? Detroit. It has a dumb name. I like that Detroit is in the title. I'm a big fan of that. But it's called Detroit Become Human.
Wait, it has a
Uh,
subtitle?
yeah.
Oh, I didn't even see that. I thought that was just like a tagline. I didn't realize that was like the actual subtitle of the game.
Oh, that could be the tagline. I don't know. That they haven't made that clear.
I just thought it was Detroit. I didn't think it was Detroit Become Human. That's a terrible ass name if they leave that on the box. I thought I thought that was just like a fun play on like this whole Android thing in the trailer. Like, oh yeah, this is kind of like the whole idea of the game is that you're becoming human. Like, da da da. That's just kind of their like tagline for the marketing. I don't think that's part of the game name. I certainly hope not.
Yeah. Regardless, that's like not the important part of that at all.
No, it
This
is,
game looks effing awesome. Oh my gosh.
which is
Can
weird
I,
because
can
you
I
didn't
say
really
that?
see anything about this except that it looks awesome and that it's a weird Android story set in Detroit, which is enough
Well,
to sell
that's
me on anything.
yeah, I was gonna say. I was like, when I saw that, I was like, yeah, that's definitely Detroit. Like they, that's what I'm really curious if they're gonna be able to nail down Detroit. Detroit has a very. I go to Detroit often. I think I can say that.
we we both go to Detroit fairly
Detroit,
often and have very strong
yeah,
connections to the Detroit area.
yeah. so, so I'm really curious how they're gonna display the city because Heavy Rain. I haven't. Have you played Heavy Rain before?
Oh, I freaking love Heavy Rain. I played Heavy Rain like 6 times.
Okay, so one of the things I played Heavy Rain a little bit, but the thing that is like very clear is that the actors are not American. Like they've got like kind of weird accents and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So Detroit is like very, very American,
Oh yeah.
and I think it's gonna be really strange seeing it through like a French lens.
I mean, I do
You
like
know
the
what I mean?
fact that in that trailer you could see certain elements that this game, I don't remember the year they said it was set in, but you can see elements of Detroit more so even than just like, I mean, they had like the spirit of Detroit and the giant like fist and all that stuff. But I mean, you can even
Yeah,
see some of the other architectural, like not necessarily like monuments, but style, and you could get the feel of what Detroit as a city looks like. And it almost
yeah.
does look like somebody took Detroit and said, okay, this is what it's going to look like in 40, 50 years, which I thought really kind of spoke well to it, because then it's like, okay, at least they're not, here's just fake ass city, tag Detroit on it, now it's Detroit. But it does look like somebody took some time to actually go in and say, okay, this is what it looks like now, here's what it could look like, which makes me feel like they're going to do similar things when it comes to character and environment and culture of the city.
I hope so. I thought it was really funny. The future of Detroit. I was like, that's a really optimistic view of Detroit. I wouldn't mind that.
That is much nicer than what RoboCop thinks.
Yeah, or what Detroit is currently like.
Okay, that's gonna launch us into a whole
Not.
other discussion. We start talking about the
We're
future of
turning
Detroit.
around. We're turning it around. Anyway,
Detroit's great. I love
the
Detroit.
thing I am actually really worried about though is that they took Detroit as just a setting, and like, is this Android story a story that you could tell in any city, and Detroit is just sort of the backdrop to it, or are they actually going to go and make it that this story that Detroit plays a big part in it? I mean, I imagine it's so. It's called Detroit,
Yeah,
um, but it didn't. It looked like Detroit, but it definitely didn't have the feel of Detroit. It looked like, I don't know, all the people in it kind of looked like hipster kids from Portland or something like that. I was like, that's not. It's not what Detroit looks like, and like the racial makeup of the trailer was not what Detroit is. It just
yeah,
wasn't.
very much.
Um,
Um,
so that's what I'm kind of curious about.
I do think that there's some, again, like culturally and history with Detroit. They did reference a lot to like Detroit kind of being this epicenter of manufacturing of these androids, and these androids being like the new Detroit. And I felt like that was kind of trying to allude back to the auto industry idea of like Detroit kind of came booming out with the auto industry, and now Detroit's kind of fallen apart, and Detroit's new thing is now this android thing where everything in Detroit is based around this android idea.
That is a really cool idea. I'm really hoping that they can nail Detroit, because I mean, if they don't, because people right now, that's what I was kind of worried about though, is because that's what people know about Detroit. They is like, Detroit's the Motor City. It's like, well, Detroit really hasn't been the Motor City for a long
No,
time. That's just
years.
people know Detroit as. So when they say it's like Detroit was the manufacturing capital of the world, it's like, well, yeah, like, 50, 60 years ago, but that's not
Yeah.
what it is now. Like, do you? It's like, that's what in the back of my head. I was like, do you know what Detroit is now? Like, do you? I mean, I'm sure they took pictures in Detroit, but like, do you guys go to Detroit? Do you guys live in Detroit? Or, um, so that's what I'm most curious about.
I also feel like
Besides
this is
that, the
a
game
very
looks.
specific. I feel like this is a very specific thing for the two of us because we have very strong connections to Detroit. That
Yeah,
anybody
yeah,
outside of like a 300-mile range of where we currently are doesn't give a
yeah.
shit about any of the stuff we just said. They're like, okay,
No,
there's an awesome ass Android story here, and you're concerned about what the city looks like.
well, yeah. Well, okay. To be fair, I just thought it was super exciting because actually I didn't realize. I had only seen bits and pieces of the trailer. Like when I first saw it, I kind of had to like, click through it. So I didn't really see the whole thing. I didn't realize it was set in Detroit, and then I watched the whole trailer, and I was like, oh my god, it's Detroit! Like, no game is set in
No,
Detroit.
there's nothing
Detroit
in
is
Detroit. Nothing is ever set in Detroit except Beverly Hills
no.
Cop and RoboCop.
Yeah, it's never. It's always like movies, and there's always a lot of shooting in those movies. So I thought it was really cool. Actually, that's what I really liked. Is like, this is a story. Like, Quantic Dream games do not have, like, they're not shooters. Like,
Yeah.
they're walk. If you've never played a Quantic Dream game, I I can't imagine most people listen to this podcast don't have Heavy Rain and stuff, but it's a lot of just walking around and talking to people. And I thought that was really cool because Detroit is usually known as the shooting cities and the crime and the murder and all that stuff. And I was like, oh, so your game isn't about shooting and it's set in Detroit? I was like, oh, that's really interesting. It's like, wow, they might actually treat Detroit with like some sort of respect instead of like being the butt end of like every joke from anybody else in America. So I'm
Well,
just hoping that they treat the city with respect, kind of thing.
yeah, up until there's 18 bankruptcy jokes in the intro video talking about past Detroit.
They won't be jokes. They'll just be like, they will be like, they'll do like the history of Detroit up to this point, and
Yeah.
they'll definitely mention the bankrupt. I hope they mention Kwame though.
That might be a bit too specific. I don't think, like you said, this is French. I don't quite think if they get that deep into Detroit politics.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying though. Like I'm hoping, like I think, like in the other game I can think of that's kind of like this was Infamous Second Son. The developers were actually it's set in
Oh
Seattle
yeah,
because the developers lived in Seattle, so they made it Seattle. Like from what I've heard, like of
yeah.
people who have played the game who are from the area, like yeah, this is exactly what Seattle's like. Um, so yeah, I'm just kind of worried that like some French guys who are they just live in France and they're doing a game about Detroit, and I'm hoping they're just not using Detroit as a setting and they're actually using it like as a environment and story point. Game looks cool though.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm super pumped. Anytime like Android stuff like
Mhm.
this, I'm 100% into this. How do you feel about this? Because David Cage is like so back and forth whether people love his stuff or hate his stuff. You said you just played a
Yeah.
bit of Heavy Rain.
Yeah, I liked it. I didn't like the setting of Heavy Rain. Actually, I really want to play Beyond Two Souls, but I've been honestly like I've been waiting to play Beyond Two Souls. I've just been waiting for it to come on PS4 because I keep hearing rumors of it. It's just like
Yeah,
been a year of rumors. I didn't like the setting of Heavy Rain. I don't like games with this is the real world. Um, like I don't like Madden because I feel like Madden is like a simulation of the real world. A lot of sports games like that. I don't like simulations of the real world or stories that are told in the real world.
yeah.
Like they need to have some sort of twist to make them, a video game. So I wasn't super into Heavy Rain. I did play Indigo Prophecy though. I really like that game.
That's another one that I've
Um,
almost bought so many times. Like I've seen it for like $4 like at random places or like oh man, I should try it because I played Heavy Rain. I love Heavy Rain. We're
yeah,
doing our top 100 games, and we will discuss Heavy Rain at length at some point during that.
yeah. Oh, I didn't really like Heavy Rain that much. Oh,
Oh,
so
I
this game's like really
love Heavy
cool.
Rain, so that's why I'm like super pumped. I haven't played Beyond mostly because I don't even remember why I didn't buy it when it first came out. Something else came out right along that time, and then I just
Hmm.
like slowly kept putting pushed back, and I was like, oh, it's coming to PS4. I was like, oh well, screw that.
Yeah, exactly. Like I heard it was coming to PS4 a long time ago. There's been a few times it's been on sale for like really cheap too. But I was like, it's coming to PS4 eventually. I'll get it then. It just hasn't come out for PS4 yet. So I
Yeah,
don't know what's going on with it. Yeah, I mean I'm kind of excited for it. But yeah, I'm more excited for this game than I have for any of the other ones. Indigo Prophecy had a cool twist on it because the game opens Indigo Prophecy's open with you murdering somebody. There's this whole occult aspect and there's this really weird aspect to it that
yeah.
actually, if you thought MGS5 like really tanked in the middle of it, Indigo Prophecy is infamous for like having the worst after the halfway point, just becoming horrible. It's actually kind of unique in that way. Like you should absolutely get that game. Like if it's like $1 just to try it, it's amazing
Yeah.
how bad that game shits the bed. Um, so yeah, I'm actually really excited. Actually, I've been excited for this game for a while because Kara, this game is actually based on a tech demo they did a long time ago
Yep.
called Kara, and I remember seeing Kara when it came out like maybe 2 years ago. It was before the Sorcerer demo, and thinking I was like, wow, that is like one of the most interesting things Quantic Dream has ever done. I hope they kind of stick with it. And they kept reiterating like over and over again, it's like, yeah, we're not doing a game on this. And they even said in interviews like they weren't going to do a game on it, but apparently they just kept coming back to the idea, and so I'm excited.
Yep.
Detroit to me was easily the most interesting thing at that conference, and I think a lot of people are talking about it, which has me happy.
Yeah.
I'm hoping it'll turn out good.
Yep. I agree.
So, this okay. People are excited for this game. I'm just not. Okay, so the game we're gonna talk about is GT Sport. Now, my experience with GT Sport thus far has been the guy going up on stage announcing a classic PlayStation franchise is is going to make its PS4 debut,
And you went,
and and the only two things I thought was a Crash and Ape Escape, and then I was like, maybe it's Medieval, and it was Gran Turismo. And it's not even Gran Turismo. It's like I
it's the
honestly
Forza
I didn't really listen.
Horizon of Gran Turismos.
Is it like yeah? I didn't.
That's kind of the
I
feeling I
don't.
got. Like, I don't know why you don't just tag the number on it if it's actually a full out Gran Turismo. Why don't you tag the number on it?
It's not though. That's what I think it's. This is kind of like the GT prologue they did
Yeah,
before GT5 came out. I feel like this is like the prologue. But to me, this game makes zero sense because of Drive Club.
that's true. You're kind
Like
of cannibalizing your audience there.
you're absolutely like Forza and Forza Horizon kind of get away with it because Forza Horizon's like an open world game, and it's open world racing, which is a much different feel than circuit racing. But these are both circuit racing with like souped up cars. So I mean, I guess people are excited for Gran Turismo, but I think it's kind of gotten to the point where it's like, what is Drive Club's place, or what is, because Drive Club is just never going to be as popular as Gran Turismo, and Gran Turismo is going to stomp it soon, stomp it. So I don't quite understand. I wasn't excited for it. I don't like Gran Turismo though. I think a lot of PlayStation fans do like it though. So I don't know. I'm sure people are excited for it. They didn't show anything for it. They showed like 10 seconds of gameplay and like 10 minutes of talking.
Yeah, but I feel like that's how these racing games always are. Is it's more about look how pretty these cars are, more so than look what gameplay things we've got. It's just ooh pretty, ooh look at the new something 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 rendered in our engine.
Yeah, that's what I feel like. Maybe that's cool for racing fans, but that's like, as not a huge racing fan, like all these games look they look the same. They look very similar, especially because they're all now going really hyper realism. Like they all look very real.
Yeah,
Like congratulations, you guys all did it. But now because it's all real, it's like it's all looks the same. And now I think you need to be like a real racing or car guy to understand the differences between like the car availability and stuff like that. So
yeah.
I was not excited for that. Just because of damn, he should not have introduced it like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I played 2 and 4, which I liked. But just I don't know. Racing games are so hit or miss to me. It basically just depends on my mood. If I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
I can play a racing game for a few hours, then I'm all about it. Otherwise, it's like, oh God, I don't want to sit here and drive in a circle.
Yeah, and the games we kind of talked about, like the racing games like we were like Burnout. And Burnout's not really a racing game, and like
Very true.
some of the Need for Speeds are like pretty cool, but they're not the ones that are like Burnout or like the Need for Speed Hot Pursuit games, which aren't really they're not like really racing. They're kind of they're racing games, but they've got like a they're not traditional
Yeah,
racing
there's
games
some
by any
twists
means.
to it in some way.
So speaking of like racing games, I did actually this kind of goes next better into this Drive Club Bikes, was it?
Yep.
This was kind of cool. It was basically announced now. It came out like during the conference at $20, so it's kind of a small game. It was an expansion pack for Drive Club, had 12 bikes and it had some new courses. I thought it was kind of cool.
I
I
don't
don't
care.
I don't really have you don't
I didn't like Drive Club. I don't care. It's yeah.
You played like all of an hour of Drive Club, didn't you?
I'd say 2.
Nah.
I just
You got to turn off the
I don't know.
That game is really, really
It's racing.
effing hard, though. I
I,
will say that. It's, yeah. Oh, I'm calling this now on the podcast just so there's like evidence of this. There will be a Jet Moto bike in this. I bet you. There's going to be a Jet Moto bike in this at some point.
in Drive Club Bikes or in GT Sport?
Not in GT4, in Drive Club Bikes. In Drive Club Bikes, the April Fool's joke will be a Jet Moto bike. I'm basically putting that on record.
Okay, question is though, because now you have to be specific. Is it like just like a Jet Moto painted style bike, or is it like full on like Jet Moto style where it's like floating a bit and all that kind of good stuff?
I'm gonna say full on Jet Moto style. Because I'm just gonna call it now. I'm not gonna say why I think it is. I'm just gonna call it now.
Gotcha.
So all of 40 people who listen to this podcast will be like, oh, he did say that would happen. So see in half a year, Jet Moto is gonna be in this. So this next game is kind of weird, kind of getting the VR stuff. Robinson the Journey. I don't know this game. I think this is not a game.
This does not look like a game.
Yeah, I think this is a VR roller coaster tech demo sort of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you know, like those old like rides those old rides like the Back to the Future rides and stuff where like you see a screen like what, or Star Tours.
Yep, and your couch
like,
or your seat moves back and forth and you go up and down, you go, whoa, crazy.
Yeah, I think this is just Star Tours. I think this is like whatever the VR version of that is. I think it'll be like probably like a half-hour long just like ride basically.
I don't think
it didn't look like there was any gameplay to it. It didn't just like, hey, follow me. It did the whole amusement ride thing of like, hey, come on, follow me. Oh no, the T-Rex is here. We better run away. Run. It's just like
See, this is the first thing I've seen that actually made me slightly excited about VR.
What the hell?
Because it wasn't a game. It's just, if I'm going to put on these damn goggles, I just want to be able to walk around somewhere and feel like I'm somewhere I can never be, and that's walking around with dinosaurs with a T-Rex chasing me. I don't need anything other than just we need to get out of this freaking jungle and there's dinosaurs. And I'll go, okay. Oh shit, I can turn around me and there's the damn T-Rex. That's all I want out of VR. I don't need intricate gameplay. I don't need anything. I just want, holy shit, there's a T-Rex. It looks like it's in the living room with me. That's what I want out of VR, and
Oh,
that's what
you
this
want
game
like
did.
the Oh, okay. That's good. I kind of agree with you because like that's sort of like the cheese ball. Like, oh, this is what the major populace will be like. That's kind of the mainstream idea of VR is like watching a movie that's in VR. It's like, oh, that sounds kind of cool. Like, I wouldn't mind doing
Yeah, I
that.
don't need anything. I don't need anything fancy. Just give me a controller so I can push my way around, and I'm just completely immersed in this world where there's dinosaurs. That's all I want.
Yeah.
I don't need to get. Don't give me a bow and tell me to go hunt dinosaurs. Just tell me to walk around and look at dinosaurs.
What about if they did this for No Man's Sky?
They did it for No Man's Sky. I'd be pissed because I want to play No Man's Sky. I'm not buying a damn VR thing for the
No,
$400
I'm
to
just saying as like an additional thing. Like, would you buy a VR thing to play?
to play No Man's Sky. No, because No Man's Sky. You know what? I might. If they had a VR option, I might. Just because I like the idea. The idea of that game is exploring these things and seeing these new areas, and I like the idea of that full immersion aspect of that. And that's again a game that's not a quote unquote game, right? It's like you can play that
Yeah.
game and just go from point to point exploring. And that's kind of what
Yeah,
this
like
felt like. And that's
mhm.
I'm okay with VR being that.
For like those like kind of walking simulator kind of games.
Yeah, like Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, I feel like would be crazy, much
Yeah,
better
that's what I was thinking of.
experience in VR because all you're doing is just walking around trying to immerse yourself in this town and immerse yourself in the story. But like, no in
Mhm.
hell do I want to play Ratchet and Clank in VR.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I see. Yeah, that's. I guess that's true. Like, Ratchet and Clank in VR would be probably something I'd try, but not necessarily a way I'd want to play the game. While like a walk, like you're saying, like a walk around one, yeah, that would make more sense because that is more of the. I don't. Maybe it's just because it's so narrative heavy. Like, I probably wouldn't mind that Detroit game playing that in VR either. I guess there's
Yeah,
something about like if there's a more passive attitude towards it, then it makes more sense. But I don't want to be like mashing my buttons, control like, oh my god, playing VR.
yeah, yep, exactly. And that's
Yeah.
why I'm okay with this. And even kind of the next game on our list here is the Until Dawn DLC. I haven't
Hmm.
played Until Dawn, but from what I've seen from like gameplay videos and stuff, is again, it looks like that more kind of walking around type thing. And again,
Hmm.
being more fully immersed into that horror experience, I could see that having a very, very real impact on how that game plays and how that game feels.
That's not what that is though.
Oh, it's not? What is it?
Well, it is. They do it like a haunted house ride. It's like literally a haunted house
Oh.
ride. You're like on a mine cart and you're like zooming around. You got like shoot birds down and stuff, and like there's like things that like pop up at you and. But no, you just said that's what you want though.
No, no,
That's
no.
what Robinson the Journey is.
I don't want to have somebody else. I like the idea of Robinson the Journey seemed like it was cool because it said, "Yeah, hey, follow me." But it didn't seem like I needed to like the game was going to make me follow him. You know what I mean? It felt like I could kind of wander where I wanted.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean with like Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, where I can wander wherever I want to. I don't want, okay, put your seatbelt on. Okay, now we're gonna go this way. Oh, look to the left. There's a zombie. Look to the right. That guy's got an axe. I don't want that.
That's
I want,
exactly what I think Robinson the Journey is. I'm pretty sure that's exactly what that game could be.
but it could be really cool if it's what I want.
Yeah. The Until Dawn thing, the one thing that's kind of interesting about that, when Until Dawn was on PS3, it was a first person game. So I think they just like crap, we have like a bunch of assets we need to use that we just like never actually got around to using. So first
And
person
easy
VR
play for
game.
VR. This game did pretty well. Throw
Yeah.
some VR in there.
So I'm just gonna assume you don't care about the next game at all then, which is Rigs.
Um,
Um
if it wasn't VR, I might be. Just because I like arena shooters and I like mechs, but it's VR, so no.
Yeah. That would be one. I feel like VR we gotta get a VR headset or something. Just so we can at least talk about this stuff because it's like we're talking about it from people who haven't used it. And it's really
Yeah.
hard, I think, to show VR as being exciting or anything if you're not actually don't have the headset on yourself.
Yeah, but Rigs just seems like the example of a game that I don't want in VR. Like, I would probably play the hell out of that if it wasn't VR. But I don't want
Yeah.
to have to put this damn thing on my head and then have to mash buttons and be all over, like, looking left and right like crazy. I just want something passive where I'm exploring is what I want for VR. And Rigs is kind of the opposite of that.
Yeah, it's like literally the exact opposite of that. I'm just curious because it's by the guys who are the Killzone, Shadowfall, and the Horizon devs. So I'm just curious because of that.
Wait, it's
I
Gorilla?
don't. Yeah, it's a Gorilla game.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, well, that made me much more excited. But then I remembered
mean,
it was
so
VR, and I really don't care still.
yeah. Um, so the next game, this is kind of moving away from VR stuff. Boundless. Now, Boundless to me did not seem very exciting, but you seem to be like kind of interested in it. Why is Boundless? This is the game that is it's Minecraft.
I
It's a
don't
pretty
know.
Minecraft. It's pretty much all I got from it.
I just kind of got. I saw it more of like an adventure game where you're like going between these worlds. Like I don't know. I assumed. I think I just saw portals and I went back to Mario 64 and was like, oh, it's like a platformer in these different worlds. But I'm pretty sure that's not what it is.
That is not what that is. It's clearly not what that is.
See, okay, I'm gonna sum Paris Games Week up in one quick sentence here. The things I thought these were way more exciting than what I think they actually are.
You made that. Yeah. Wait. Yeah. Well, you said the opposite way, but yeah. Yeah. Because you
I
came
said
in
it
and like,
right.
wait. So
The
these
things,
things
the
were more
things
exciting to you
these
initially.
no. The things that I think all of these games should be is way better than what
Yes.
these games are actually going to be.
Yeah, because you were all hyped up when you were getting on this when you're starting this podcast. We usually talk for a few minutes before we start the podcast. And you're like, "Yeah, Paris Games Week was awesome." And I was like, "Well, there's like two or three things that were pretty cool."
Because again, in my mind, Boundless is like this cool new like 3D platformer. Where did you get a Minecraft vibe from this trailer?
The whole thing, he's holding a hammer. It's a first-person view, and he's holding a hammer.
That doesn't. So it's a first-person platformer where you have a hammer and you hit things.
And then they showed like people building stuff, and then they had the blocks like Minecraft.
Shit, maybe I didn't pay
Did you even
attention.
watch that trailer?
I watched this trailer. There were portals, and I went, "Ooh, pretty portals." I'll bet this is something else, and I probably clicked through the rest of it, so it didn't really.
I think you sort of clicked through that one. It's clearly a Minecrafty clone. It actually does look like it looks like at least has some sort of like narrative aspect to it that's not just like go. I mean, it could be
Well,
actually if it's all pre-built stuff, I'll actually probably be more excited than if it's all randomized. Like
yeah.
if somebody said like, "Oh, here's like a pre-built Minecraft world that like professional game developers spent years on," I was like, "Oh, that actually would be kind of interesting. I'd like to see what that is." Um, so yeah, I think I have to see more of that game. That's one of those games I feel is gonna have like a really extensive developer diary. They're like, "This is what this game is," and they're gonna try to avoid saying Minecraft the whole time. It'll be funny. So this game's not that weird. You have a lot of you have a lot of questions about this one. So Dreams by Media Molecule, the guys who did Tearaway and did Little Big Planet. Yeah, this game's a little weird. It is weird.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Just even watching them, because the trailer for this was basically just the two guys sitting on the couch talking about it, and
Yeah.
I just was sitting there watching, and going, "What the hell is this? And why
Did
would
you
I ever put time into it?"
did you watch the stage demo of it by any chance or no? Did you
No, I
just watch
just
the
watched the
trailer?
trailer.
Okay, so what this game kind of I guess the best way to describe it is basically you can use clay and you can bring the clay to life.
Yeah,
So instead of like Little Big Planet where you have a bunch of pre-built assets, you build all the assets yourself and then you
yeah,
bring them to life. So you could make a 3D platformer, you can make a first person shooter, you can make a just like a movie or something like that. You can make a lot of different things. It just seems like Little Big Planet with a lot more freedom.
yeah.
Um, but you don't care about that or no?
I don't like Little Big Planet.
Oh yeah, you played the worst one. You played the worst one like right off the bat.
Well,
That
okay.
was a mistake.
This is my whole feeling with this, and this I feel like this makes me sound old as shit at this point. I don't want to make my own shit. I want somebody who is talented to make something good, and then I enjoy their good thing, instead of somebody untalented, aka me and 90% of the other people making these things, making
But
something
it's not.
half-assed, and me going, okay, this could be way better if a professional made it.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like you get. I mean, when you play Little Big Planet, like you get you get a whole game that's made by professionals, and then like years later, it's like when it starts to build up all the extra stuff.
Yeah, but
It's
I
not.
feel
You know what I
like
mean?
yeah, but I feel like these games focus so much on the creativity aspect that the main
Yeah,
experience isn't as well done.
I can feel that because I yeah, I kind of wish they just make it kind of like a Tearaway or something. Like Tearaway was kind of cool about them. Like there was like that little there was like that create aspect was kind of like a minor portion of it. It was
Yeah,
like a gameplay aspect of it rather than the whole game itself. Um,
yeah, and I love
although
Tearaway. Tearaway is great.
I mean, well, I probably won't play Dreams. I'll bet like in 2 years from now, Dreams is gonna be like awesome. So he's gonna do something very, very cool in that. It's just gonna take a while for it to build up to that. Kind of like Little Big Planet took quite a while before like the really, really neat levels started coming in. So moving on to a much more traditional game. Ratchet and Clank looks awesome.
It still just looks like pretty Ratchet and Clank.
Yeah, what's wrong with
Nothing wrong with that.
that?
Well, there's not much to talk about. It's pretty Ratchet and Clank.
It's very pretty Ratchet and Clank though. It's like this game is one where keep people like I think for the longest time people there's that thing it's like, "Oh, it'll look like Toy Story." Like this game looks better than Toy Story. This
Do
game
you
looks better than
realize
Toy
you say
Story.
the same damn thing every time we've talked about Ratchet and Clank in the last like 6 months? Every discussion of Ratchet and Clank, you're like, long time ago, somebody told me a game's gonna look like Toy Story. Every single time this game comes up, and every time I'm like, oh, and it's finally here.
Ah, crap. Maybe there isn't a lot to talk about this.
You say the same damn thing every time.
Okay, here, no. Okay, here, as a Ratchet and Clank fan, okay, if we're gonna get like the specifics of Ratchet and Clank, there is things to talk about. Okay, so they show the Clank gameplay. The Clank gameplay is actually there was Clank gameplay in the earlier Ratchet and Clank games, but they've heavily modified it this time. So it looks like this isn't just like a remake of some of the levels like some of the other areas are. This is like completely reinvents the Clank gameplay, um, which is kind of nice. The Crack in Time Clank gameplay was probably the best Clank game of the entire gameplay of the entire series, and it's really, really difficult puzzles. Like they were not just simple like, oh, this is an action adventure game, so we're gonna do some like puzzles. Like the Crack in Time puzzles, some of them were actually pretty difficult, especially near the end. So it looks like they've kind of taken that sort of idea and then replaced like the original Ratchet and Clank One gameplay with it. One of the more interesting thing too is this is kind of I thought this was kind of a spoiler, but Doctor Nefarious is a big part of the game. I know you haven't really played the Ratchet and Clank games too much, but Doctor Nefarious is like the bad guy of the series, but he doesn't show up till I think the third game in the series, but he's like a fan favorite sort of thing. But he's going to be in this, which is really weird, like how they're kind of mixing up the Ratchet and Clank canon. That's exciting for Ratchet and Clank fans. I don't know if that's really exciting for anybody else.
I know what none of that shit meant.
Moving on.
There we go. I know what that means.
Battlefront exclusive beta is coming. Battleborn,
Yep.
not Battlefront.
Battleborn. Yeah. And that's all we have to say about that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like it's a MOBA. I'm not into MOBAs. It's like a MOBA meets Borderlands, and I didn't play Borderlands, so I'm not allowed to say
Yeah,
about
and
that.
I don't particularly care for Borderlands, so
Yeah, so if you like MOBAs and you like Borderlands, I'm sure that's exciting.
go for it.
Although, yeah, they're gonna get stomped by Blizzard's game. I forgot that game's called, but it's pretty
Oh,
similar. It just looks a lot
yeah.
better.
What the
What the
hell
hell
is
is that
that
game
thing
called?
called?
Overwatch. Overwatch.
Yes, there it is.
Overwatch and even Cliffy B's game like still looks more interesting than this one. What are the Blue Horizon or I don't know. It's got a weird name too. But I don't know. There just seems like a lot of games are similar. This is just look more interesting. So good
Yep.
luck, guys. That's all I gotta say. Um, this one was weird. There was a DJ game. What the hell was it called? It was I don't even remember what it was called, but it's featuring Avicii, who I actually do kind of like. Um, but it just looked like not Amplitude. It kind of looked like Amplitude.
Yeah. It looked like somebody went, remember amplitude and frequency? Let's do something similar to that?
And it actually looked a lot like what's that other game that's also similar to those? The one where you're going down like a highway. You're in a spaceship. You're going down a highway again, but you pick up like sort of like Tetris blocks. Oh, what the hell's that game called? Oh, I don't
Audio
know what it's
surf?
called. Yeah, Audio Surf. Like it just looks like all of those games. Like it's like, oh, you're a spaceship and there's music. It's like, oh, okay. There's like a whole long list of spaceship music games, and
Yeah. Which
I don't
especially
know. They
seems
didn't.
weird with amplitude coming back next year. It's like there's your competition, the original one of these games.
Yeah, and I didn't even understand what I was looking at when I saw there. So I was like, it kind of looked like all those other games. Like, okay, good.
Great.
I hope you're better. I hope.
Yep.
This one is a little bit more interesting. Matterfall. I don't even know what the hell this game was. It looked kind of cool though.
Yeah, it looked real
Matter.
cool.
Yeah, Matterfall was that CG trailer by the Resogun devs, Housemark. It was basically a CG trailer of a guy in a mech suit just shooting shit, and people are blowing up into pixels.
Yeah.
I don't know, it looked cool. I don't know. Do you have any strong opinions of
Uh,
it?
I don't know. It looked something different than Resogun, which I like, but it still kind of had that similar art style with the very colorfulness of it, which I like.
Yeah, and I also liked it was really weird. Like the space, like the cool spaceman you I guess you're gonna play as was like the most boring part of that trailer. Like
Oh yeah,
all the enemies look kind of cool, like that weird like tentacle pixel thing
yeah, right at the
looked
end.
really neat. Yeah. That all looked really, all that looked really neat. But it was kind of funny. Like now, like I see this highly detailed space marine thing that would have blown me away as a kid, and I'm like, whatever.
Yeah, I feel like every protagonist looks the same, and it's all about like enemy design and creature design at this point. I feel like 90% of games have a very similar looking protagonist.
That's true. That's not really a controversial statement. I think a lot of people will agree with you on that one too. Yeah, it's like he just looks like he looks like the Dead Space guy, like a lot like
Yeah,
the Dead Space guy,
very much.
especially with the later costumes and stuff. Um, I don't know. That's one. It's weird. I think it's weird seeing a CG trailer. I don't think I've seen like I don't remember. There's not many games I'd say recently that just have CG trailers,
Yeah, I feel like at
unless
this
it's
point
like
it's
a
got
really well-known series.
yeah, it's gotten to the point, especially for new series and new IPs, where it's here's your CG trailer introducing it, and then within a short amount of time, okay, here's the gameplay for it.
Yeah.
And this one didn't have that. It was just here's the CG trailer. Doesn't that look cool?
Yeah, I mean, like it showed like they showed like some like gameplay. I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. It just felt like a very old school trailer.
Yeah,
Especially felt weird kind of coming from these guys who are all about gameplay. It was weird seeing like the most gameplay oriented, like one of the most gameplay oriented developers releasing a CG trailer. So that'll be cool when we see it.
yeah.
Uncharted more. They showed off Uncharted 4 multiplayer. Don't really have a lot of opinions about that. I don't play multiplayer too much. I don't really play Uncharted. Do
I have never touched Uncharted multiplayer.
you play Last of Us multiplayer though?
For maybe like an hour or so.
Oh, okay, so it wasn't like a big thing. Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
feel like I think Uncharted multiplayer is like for a very hardcore audience
yep.
who played that a ton of that. So I mean that's kind of exciting for them, but
I feel like
I
it
don't
kind of
know.
developed in that age of every game needs a multiplayer,
Yeah,
and I think it just kind of came out of that time period, and it's just kind of stuck with the series because I think there is kind of a hardcore audience that's all about it. It's just that
yeah,
it
no,
has a
mhm,
very specific audience. It's not a, Halo just came out today. It's not like Halo where, everybody could pick up and play
mhm.
Halo at this, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Like I feel like a lot of people buy Halo for the multiplayer. I feel like there's very few people who pick up Uncharted for the multiplayer.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird that it does. I understand that's actually it's a lot more elaborate than like attacked on multiplayer. It's supposed to, like the multiplayer is always supposed to be pretty good. But yeah, it just seems kind of weird because but it's been with the series since Uncharted 2. Like Uncharted 3 had
Yep.
multiplayer. So I mean, it's kind of cool for those people. It just kind of looked like Uncharted. I was just kind of disappointed that they didn't show more single player stuff because that to me is what I play Uncharted for,
Yeah.
and that game looks freaking gorgeous.
I feel like that stuff's going to be like, we're going to be hit over the head with Uncharted single player at PlayStation Experience.
That's true. That is kind of weird. Like there's a lot of announcements that I kind of expected them to make that they didn't. That I'm like, wow, those are some pretty big announcements you're holding out for PSX, unless they're just not announcements that they're going to make for a while.
Such
Um,
as,
like a Sony Santa Monica game. Sony Santa Monica, the guys who did like God of War and stuff. There was no,
yep.
they didn't talk about God of War. They didn't talk about Rhyme. They didn't talk about oh shoot, what was the other one? Oh, they Sucker Punch's game, the
Oh, yeah.
infamous guys. We don't know what Sucker Punch's game is. They didn't talk about like final. They didn't talk about like final. Like they didn't talk about Last Guardian.
That's true. I
Um,
guess there's a lot of stuff missing, which is crazy because this is a really packed conference and they left out a bunch of stuff.
yeah, I mean they like all those big things we remember from E3. They didn't really talk about that. So I wonder if they're like I wonder if those things were announced pretty early and they're giving them like another few months for PSX before like they're ready to show demos.
That can make sense. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. So you're a Street Fighter fan. Dalsim was like Dalsim. Oh God, I feel so bad. How the hell do you pronounce that guy's name? He's been around since Street Fighter 2, and I don't even know.
Dulcine, I think. I don't know.
Oh,
I'm bad at
dude,
names.
I thought you played Street Fighter.
No, I
Did
do.
you
I don't
play?
give a shit about their names though. I just call them whatever I want to.
That's so bad because I think Street Fighter actually has like a pretty extensive story too. You can't just say whatever.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's a
mhm.
fighting game story though. Who really cares?
One of the things I heard that actually this is not even related to Street Fighter Five. This is related to Street Fighter Five, and I think they announced. Um, they Ono, the director producer guy, specifically said that they got beat by Mortal Kombat when it comes to story.
Yep,
So, but so then he's like saying it's like I want to make Street Fighter Five. Like they're trying to do. It seems like from what they've been saying, trying to do a Mortal Kombat like campaign mode
that would make me
for
really
Street
happy.
Fighter Five,
That'd
which
make
would
me
be
really happy.
sweet. Yeah, because right now I feel like Street Fighter Five is like aimed at people specifically who just play Street Fighter. Like, this game does not look friendly at all to like people who are new to the series.
But what Street Fighter game has, especially like the mainline Street Fighter, like what Street Fighter has gone, ooh, that looks like a fun game for a casual player.
I say Street Fighter Four because they kind of like it's like kind of like a soft reboot, and it kind of went back to Street Fighter. It's a lot. It's like kind of like a sequel to Street Fighter Two. So I think they try to get a bunch of new fans with that one, and then Street Fighter Five though just looks like, I guess, bringing over fans like who bought Ultra Super Street Fighter 4. You know what I mean? It just seems like a very hardcore game. I don't know. I think there's always been that audience there for Street Fighter though. So
Yeah.
yeah, are you excited for Street Fighter 5?
Yeah.
Are you like gonna get it eventually like at $60, or are you just gonna like, when it comes to
When I get around to it. It's
when
not it's not a game that I'm like super pressing into because I'm not good at Street Fighter at all.
yeah.
Like I think Street Fighter 4 I held a very solid like 25 and 80 record online. Like I'm real bad at Street Fighter, but it's one of those
Yeah.
games that I like playing. Like I just like playing through, like just sitting down by myself, playing a few matches. Not something I'm gonna
Hmm.
get like super hardcore into.
Yeah. It's like one of those like casual games you play every once in a while.
Yep.
I gotta get that. So this is the final game we're gonna talk about, mostly because I like this game a lot. Gravity Rush 2. It looked a lot like the stuff they showed for Gravity Rush 2 already, but I'm just happy that it exists. That's all I really have to say about Gravity Rush 2. It looks neat. I hope more people play it. Um, the remastered Gravity Rush 1 was officially, these, to be fair, both these were officially announced for Europe and America. And for Europe, they're going to get a boxed copy of the remaster of Gravity Rush 1, and then in the US, they're going to get digital copies of the remaster of Gravity Rush 1. I hope they get more fans, because I think we talked about it before, and you weren't a huge fan of it. But I think it's a very special game that some people can be, that's really polarizing, but I think that they could get some pretty big fans, especially because now it's not on Vita, so like there's
Yeah,
a
that always
bunch of people who
helps.
can play it now.
Sadly.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a game that I'm curious about. I don't I don't know. I feel like I really want to play the remaster, which I don't say very often, just because my only issue with the first Gravity Rush and the only reason I didn't finish it is because of the controls. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm curious to see how I would feel about this game given different control set and given a different environment to play it in,
Hmm.
because that just really never clicked with me, the motion controls, and I don't want to tilt my shit all over the place to find something. I just want to be able to look.
That is what I was a bit worried about, because when I saw the gameplay for Gravity Rush 2, it didn't look like Gravity Rush 1, but like the gameplay um, beats and motions felt like Gravity Rush 1. So I'm a little bit worried. Like, I'm hoping that while it looks like it plays similar to Gravity Rush 1, they've like radically changed the controls. I will agree, the controls suck. They're not good. They're creative in certain aspects, but I don't think they really help the game
Yeah.
at all. So yeah, I think it'll help. All right, so I guess that'll just about do it. If we miss some smaller games, that's Brad's fault.
Yeah, for sure.
So now there's just a lot of stuff that's covered, and they announced some smaller games too, but like Shadow of the Beast, which kind of had some gameplay aspects. But I think we're gonna kind of wait until we learn more about those games before we actually start talking about them. So if you guys liked what you heard, you can always follow us on YouTube. You can follow us on iHeartRadio, Spotify. We're not on Spotify.
Spotify doesn't do podcasts.
They don't do podcasts. We might
Yeah.
be on Google Podcasts soon.
Woo!
We'll see about that. That'd be actually kind of exciting. Hopefully, we can be on the forefront of that and just beat everybody else to it. um, if you can also follow us on Twitter at Darksliders_pod. If you tweet at us, we will tweet you back. We will actually talk to you back.
Crazy, right? It's
Oh
almost
yeah,
like that's
super
how
crazy.
social media works.
Shut up. No, not everybody. Not like the super. I guess if we had like 1 million fans, maybe we couldn't say that.
Send us 1 million tweets and see if we respond to all of them.
Oh, please don't.
It's the
Oh
true
God,
test.
that's
It's the true test of how much time me and Doug has, which is probably a lot.
if I was still unemployed, then I might actually answer most of those, but I am not. All right. Well, so I'll see you guys next week.
Bye.